Good afternoon, fellow orchid lovers. This is Danielle here with hopefully a short update. I have a lot of plants to include, so I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible without making anyone dizzy. I wanted to introduce you to a new orchid. I did not purchase this. My niece showed up at my house yesterday with this beautiful gift for me. We go horseback riding once a week together, and this past week I had kind of a bad fall. I got a concussion, so she brought it to me, hoping that I feel better soon. And what a job she did picking out this orchid. Look just how beautiful that is. It doesn't come through too much on the video, but that lower lip is like a wine red. It's just gorgeous. So that's my newest orchid. And hopefully she'll cross over to waterculture. Well, she is a Phalaenopsis, and sometimes I have trouble with those ones in waterculture, but they all eventually settle in. Some give me more trouble than others. This is the red Twinkle that I got a few weeks ago. More and more of her buds are plumping and opening, so she's going to be quite a show. I wanted to update you on some of my Fusarium orchids. They're all doing really well. I haven't lost any of them. This one, my Odontoglossum, has a new growth. You can see that there. So that's good. That's a positive sign, and it's developing a few of its own roots. So that's also good. These are two pieces of my Shari baby up here. There's a new growth on that one. There's a smaller new growth on that one. Lots and lots of new roots. So that makes me think that the Fusarium treatments are definitely working. This piece down here, this is an older bulb that those two pseudobulbs up that I just showed you were growing off of. It's decided to put out two new growths of its own. So I have one there. That smaller one seems to have stalled. I have given these orchids a total of 4 treatments for Fusarium. It's a little harder now that it's cold outside. I like to do the treatments outside because I don't really like having those types of chemicals in my house, but we're down in the 30s now, so I can't really do the treatments outside. I was thinking of perhaps just doing it in my bathtub so that I can just wash it down, but I haven't gotten around to actually figuring it out yet, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. But they do need another treatment with a different type of fungicide, which I do have, but I just haven't used yet. And if at any point I sound like I'm wandering or I'm just prattling on and on, like I said, I do have a concussion, so I have moments of not really knowing what the heck I'm talking about. This pseudobulb I was literally picking up to throw out because this is the oldest pseudobulb that was on the Shari baby. It's only got one leaf. It was definitely like big purple ring on both sides of this rhizome for the pseudobulb. I picked it up to throw it out, and then I saw that, which I gotta put it down so I can focus on it. New growth. So it saved itself at the last moment. I was literally picking this up to throw it out, and I said, hey, that's a new growth. And so this will live to see a few more days. As long as that new growth continues to push on, I will continue to try to save this section of the Shari baby. So that's those. I'll take another new look at my beautiful Charlie orchid. Oh, I'm just in love with it. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful to begin with, but because it has special meaning, because my niece thought of me and brought it over to my house as a surprise, it just means that much more. So I'm definitely in love. Now, because I was suffering from a concussion and I wasn't feeling well, between the headaches and the dizziness, I didn't really take care of my orchids very well this week. I was able to quickly, because I do the semi-water culture with a lot of them, I was able to quickly just throw some distilled water you know, into their vases just so that I knew they were getting hydration, but they actually sat in it. I usually just do it for 48 hours, and they actually sat in it for a fair amount longer than that. And I was worried, but there was really nothing I could do about it. I wasn't feeling well, so I was really concerned. This morning I dumped all the orchids, and I took a look, and I don't see any ill effects yet. However, I do see one positive effect. This is my Gara apple blossom, and I've had this orchid almost 2 months. The 27th of this month, it'll be 2 months. And that extra couple of hours in the water, look at what this orchid's doing. I've had it for 2 months and it's done absolutely nothing. The roots have continued to get mushy and yucky and unhappy, and I left it in the water for an extra couple of hours, and there's a dinosaur that has spines like that it's reminding me of. What is it? A Spinosaur, a Stegosaur, something like that. I really shouldn't be trying to think the name of a dinosaur with a concussion, but anyways, I'm thrilled, because I know that this orchid is a tough orchid. I know a lot of people that do have it, they say that they struggle to have any progress, and there it is. So maybe this orchid just likes that extra couple of hours of moisture that the other orchids don't like. So accidentally, I might have gotten a clue that this orchid doesn't like to dry out as much as the other cattleyas do. So we're gonna experiment with that and see if we get some good results. Now again, I'm gonna try to move nice and slowly, and I apologize, my house is not really that clean. Again, I haven't really been feeling well, so I haven't really been taking care of things like I should. So these updates, these are all orchids that I've had for a decent amount of time, that for months and months and months just did nothing. And this is an example of why patience is so important with our orchids, and, you know, not to give up. And an example, I'm going to close this door a little because the red shine is really bothering me. Which you may hear my cat yell because he doesn't like to be stuck in there, but, and if you do, I apologize. Where was I? Yes. Okay. Sometimes you see an orchid and you think there's no hope and you just toss it. But, you know, if you're willing to put in the time and effort, these orchids really bounce back. For example, this particular one, this is a piece of my Alyssa Nehemi, I believe it's called. When I was unpotting the orchid, Rory, please be tolerant for a minute while mommy's filming. Okay. Thank you. What was I saying? Okay. When I unpotted this orchid, this pseudobulb was kind of already cut off. It was a division from a bigger plant. So this was kind of just hanging out. It had no roots, nothing. My inclination was to just throw it out because it had no roots. I had a pretty decent plant without this. But I said, you know what? Let me just throw it in a vase and see what I can do. And look at that. All right, hold on, I'm sorry, guys. Let me see if I can, there you go. A new growth, a new root on this shriveled, old, and yet look at that. I can't believe it. And that might actually be something there too. Don't give up on your orchids. I mean, sometimes it's just not worth it. If you have a big, beautiful plant and one pseudobulb falls off, okay, I understand you getting rid of it, but this is possible. So as long as you have available eyes, as long as you try, I mean, would you have saved this? I was not really going to save it. I was just going to throw it out, and I said, let me try. And look at that. So don't give up. Did I put how long I've had this one? No, but I got this one the same time I got that one. So I've had this one 5 months. 5 months I've been struggling. Well, not struggling, just experimenting, really. Just putting a little water in the vase every couple of days, giving it some hydration, and it's living to see another day. So an example of endurance of orchids. I got this one around the same time. You know what, let me do this little one to get him out of the way. This is my Tolumnia. I've had him for over 5 months. I have a bunch of Tolumnias. The reason why I'm highlighting this one is I've had this one the longest, and it's beautiful, it's healthy, it's lush. The leaves are nice and plump, but it wasn't really doing anything. And finally, it's got a new growth there. So it's getting happy. My Tolumnias I'm a little bit worried about. They really like their wet-dry cycle, but a quick, you know, wet-dry, wet-dry, wet-dry. And I'm going to be going away on a cruise in a little bit less than 3 weeks. And the person that watches my house, she watches my animals. I really don't want to add the extra burden of watering my plants. But I'm just concerned about the Tolumnias. I did put the glass beads in the bottom, and I am planning on filling the water to the top of the glass beads and hoping that they'll make it through. They might be a little extra damp for a couple of days, and I'm hoping that's not gonna kill them, but it's better than letting them be dry for an extra couple of days, because I feel like if I leave them dry, it's a 7-day cruise, but we'll actually be gone for 8 because we're flying down a day early. No, it's gonna be 9 actually, because we're flying down a day early. It's a 7-night cruise, so that's 8 days. So yeah, I'm a little concerned because usually these get watered every other day. So I don't know. I may lose my Tolumnias. We'll have to see. I may discuss it with my house sitter and see if she's willing to just put a little water every day. I feel bad asking her to do that. I have a lot of animals, so she already does a lot for me. So I don't want to push it. Okay, this is another example of an orchid that I got. It was in 4 pieces in the pot. Usually you'd look through the pseudobulbs, you'd see what I saw on these, and you just toss it. I mean, you wouldn't think it's worth it. But for instance, this piece, there's 2 pseudobulbs completely shriveled. I mean, look at how thin those things are. Just ridiculously thin. A new growth that had failed. I really should be holding this with the other hand because I'm not as ambidextrous with that one. Another new growth that had failed. And I said, you know what, let me try with this one too. And I did, and look, new growth right there, new root. I mean, come on. I've had this orchid 5 months. It wasn't doing nothing. Patience has paid off. And actually, these are the 2 worst pieces that I'm showing you. The pieces that you would normally save because there was a few pseudobulbs and they were healthier and more plump. Those are the ones that are doing absolutely nothing. No new roots, nothing. The bad pieces that I would have thrown out are the ones that have the new growths. It's just kind of crazy. That's not focusing. Let's move on. This one is amazing. Look at those new roots. Tons of new roots. Huge new growth. And again, if you look at it without the new growths, and I mean, picture it without all of this. A leaf that was cut, pseudobulbs that are tiny, really, just dehydrated. You would maybe have thrown this portion out. But look at that. Look at all those new roots, green growing tips, new growth. And this new growth is growing fast. This one's a lot slower, but I mean, this poor thing has no energy because its pseudobulbs are so badly desiccated. But this one is growing so fast. So, again, don't be so quick to throw something out. Sometimes there is hope. Sometimes there's not, but sometimes there is. And, not everybody has the patience to do this. Some people have like huge collections, 200 and something plants, and they just don't have the time for that. Okay. But if you do have the time for it, it does pay off. Another example, these I've had for 6 months and they were doing absolutely nothing. The roots were terrible. They've had those strings, etc., etc. Now finally, 6 months later, new roots, and look, a new growth. 6 months. 6 months it took to get that result. Is it worth it? I don't know if it's worth it to you, but it's worth it to me. I'm so psyched about it. And that's possibly another new growth there, actually. So, pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. And then the other, it was 2 pieces in the pot when I got it. The other one has even better roots and an even bigger new growth. So again, progress after 6 months of nothing. I'd say that's pretty good. Let's just move these over here. I really don't want to make anyone dizzy, and I apologize if I am. I'm pretty dizzy already, so I don't notice. But if I make you dizzy, I'm so sorry. Another 6-monther. I've had this plant for 6 months. This is one of the first Cattleyas I got. 5, 6 of 17, I got this one. And I mean, this section's not as good. It's two pieces. This section's not as good. It's still kind of struggling. It does have a few new roots there. I don't know if you can see them. It's having trouble focusing, but there's a few green tips in there. So, it is starting to bounce back, but 6 months later, and this is the only progress I've had on this plant. So, that's a struggle for sure. However, the other half of it that was in the pot, look at that. 6 months later, it's finally doing something. And not just doing something, doing a whole heck of a lot. Again, this had really no roots to speak of. It was just these strands, and I was putting the water up on the rhizome, which I know is probably not such a great idea, but I wasn't leaving it longer than 48 hours, so it really wouldn't have the opportunity to rot, and it seems to have worked because there are roots everywhere. So finally, 6 months later, there's progress. This one I wanted to share with you because, again, I've had this one 5 months, and it's only recently that it's starting to get green roots. It's not out of the water. This orchid, this is the one, if you've been following me for a while, when I got it 5 months ago, it was in pretty rough shape. The pseudobulbs are pretty shriveled. I mean, the growth is very, very floppy. But it came to me like this, and the reason why it was in such bad shape is several of the pseudobulbs were actually rotted. I thought about saving them, and then I decided, why am I doing that to myself? So I eventually got rid of them. But the main plant I did decide to try to save, even though it was so badly dehydrated. I mean, these leaves are so thin, which is not normal for a Cattleya. These are like ridiculous. They just flop right over. But it's finally getting roots. So it's possible that these growths are never going to be strong at this point, but maybe it'll push out a new growth and that one will be strong, and then we can move on from there. So again, patience does pay off. Some of my new orchids that I'm kind of excited about, again, I left them in the water for longer than I normally would have, and this one had a really nice reaction to it. Those roots were not there when I got this orchid, like, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? So leaving it in the water for the extra couple of hours that I did, this one reacted pretty well to it as well. So that's exciting about that. My Phoenicia has a new growth, so I wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you can see it right there, but that's a new fan growing. So that's exciting. This is one of my newer orchids too. I got that a week or 2 ago. And then this one, when I showed you my new orchids, I showed you that there was a sheath. Well, I pushed out 2 buds. And these are tiny, so I'm sure the flowers are also going to be tiny. I'm sorry about my filming lack of ability right now. It's pretty dark here too. That didn't really help, but 2 buds. So we'll see how it does. So that's that one. One of my updates that's not such a great update. This is one of those store-bought phals. that I got before I decided I'm done with the whole store-bought thing. It's fairly dusty, sorry. She's going downhill fast. I have had orchids go downhill like this before, and they have eventually bounced back, but I don't know. I've also had orchids go downhill fast like this and not make it. I hope she does. I really did like her blooms. She does have a few green roots, but for the most part, her roots are completely gone. The funny thing is, I pulled one of her yellow leaves away, and look at what she's working on. Another flower spike. Is this orchid insane? I think maybe it is. So that's probably not going to progress with the leaves in this shape, but I thought that was kind of funny to see that. Yeah, so we're going to try. She's in my ICU. I'm going to try to save her, but I don't know that that's possible. So I'll keep you updated on that, good, bad, or otherwise. These are my 2 Dendrobiums. This one I've had for, let me see, probably about a month and a half, almost 2 months. This one I just got a couple weeks ago. It is a deciduous orchid. So the leaves are starting to fall. This one is not a deciduous Dendrobium. And you can see the difference here. They're kept in the same spot. And this one's still green and healthy and growing. And this one is dropping its leaves. I don't really... Since I grow in water culture, and this is a deciduous orchid, I'm really trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I know that people that have deciduous Dendrobiums, they really slow down the water and the feed because the orchid's not going to use it. And if you don't do it properly, you won't get blooms. And this one does look like it's bloomed before. It has old spikes. So it could bloom for me potentially in the spring. So what I've decided to do, and this may not be right, but I don't have bark and it doesn't retain any water. And I do know that people that have deciduous Dendrobiums, there's a lot of backlight, sorry. Every once in a while they'll just put a little teeny tiny trickle of water just so that the plant doesn't, you know, completely dry out. So I've put my glass beads in and I've put the water in like right here, because I don't want those roots to dry out so badly that they're gonna die. I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if it's the wrong thing. The roots are not in any way touching the water. So they are not staying wet, but there is moisture in the air around them slightly. I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna give it a try. In my growing conditions, in the whole water culture thing, it's kind of hard to know what to do in this situation. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. And, you know, again, it's kind of an experiment. If it goes horribly awry, the worst case scenario, the orchid's not going to die from being watered. It just probably won't bloom, which it may not do anyways because of the shock of coming to me in 20-degree temperatures. So that's my plan. And this one, since it's not deciduous, I am going to still continue to water it. So that's that. Some exciting news. More new growths. On this orchid, this is the one with the really good roots. She didn't have good roots when I got her, but she took to water culture immediately and grew some really nice roots. There was a little something growing out of one of the bases of her pseudobulbs, and I'd never seen anything like that. And it's a new growth. Just wanted to let you know. It's pretty cool. It's so much more fleshy than any other Cattleya that I have. So it's just obviously the way that this one grows. But yeah, it's growing fast. But this orchid has an amazing root system, so I'm not really surprised by that. So that's my Cattleya. My Brassivola nodosa is doing really, really well. I have new growth starting on pretty much every piece. This tiny piece, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you, so I apologize if everything's going to be blurry for the next couple of seconds. This front pseudobulb is its newest pseudobulb, this one right here. There is a new growth starting there. I know it's going to be insanely hard for you to see, and you may not be able to see it, but I can, and I am so psyched. When I took this plant, there it goes, the concussion again, out of its pot, and it was 3 pieces. Oh, you can see a little better that way. I was really disappointed because, you know, the smaller a plant is, the farther off from blooming it is in most cases. So when I saw this little teeny tiny piece, again, I was tempted to just throw it out. But I decided not to, and it grew all these beautiful new roots. It had no roots. If I flip it over, see all that brown gack there? That was what it had. So again, my temptation was to just chuck it, because who wants to deal with that? But look at all these beautiful roots it grew. It pushed on this new growth, and now it's getting another one. Same thing with this piece. There were 3 pieces in the pot, like I said. This is its newest, sorry guys. This is its newest growth. And it's pushing out another one. So that's, I mean, continuous growth. As soon as one is finished, another one starts. So that's pretty awesome. And then this is the piece that flowered for me. You can see right there. Its new growth is pushing on. It's having a little trouble pushing up straight. It kind of went out and then up, but it looks like it might be pushing out something else there. So my Brassivola nodosa is a pretty happy girl. And that makes me happy. Oh, there go the dogs. Every day the kids get off the bus and the dogs go nuts. And someone's alarm's going off too, so that's fun for me. Just really quickly, hopefully before the dogs explode into comment, my Rhynchostylus new leaf, and the flower spike is growing on. There it is. Now with these, I had spike start the same time about that Roger had his spike start, and his were growing so fast and mine were not. And so I was thinking to myself, well, maybe it's the difference in method. You know, he's dunking his every day and I'm keeping mine in full water culture. Maybe that's the difference. And then I realized, duh, this is a Vandaceous orchid. It probably needs more feed. So I upped the feed on this one and boom, the spike immediately took off. So I think it just wasn't getting enough nutrients, and that's why it wasn't really growing that fast. So because I had such great success with upping the feed on this one, I also did it with my red one. And again, progress with the spike. Happy sap and like major growth in just a couple weeks. I just started literally maybe 2 weeks ago upping the feed, and they are growing very quickly. So that's really exciting. I'm really happy about that. So I have a lot of really cool stuff going on. New growths, a couple of spikes, some buds, and so I'm really blurry. Sorry about that. But I'm excited about that. And of course, my beautiful new orchid from my niece. Thanks, Charlie. I just love it. So if you have any comments or, you know, suggestions, I am always welcome to that. I always welcome that, not welcome to that. Again, sorry, I'm a little scattered. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tolerating it. This turned into a much longer video than I wanted it to, so I apologize for that. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you all have happy growing, and I will talk to you next time.